Hey guys, so I'm back traveling again already. Yes, in 2023, we're in February and I've already made 2 trips. So those of you that follow the channel, you'll know that I was in Romania in January for a quick extended weekend. And in February, I traveled to Lisbon in Portugal on business actually for a work trip. But of course, you guys know me. If I can travel, if I can make a vlog, then you know, I gotta take advantage of that and make a video and document my experience whilst telling you something interesting at the same time. Because I like to give it that kind of spin on my videos, you know. And so with Portugal being a very popular destination for people moving abroad to move to, very popular place. So in this video, I wanted to explore, based also on my experience of being there, is why is Portugal such a popular destination for people to move to? So let's get right into the video. So as with every travel video, a bit of a background on Portugal before we start. So it is a country in the south of Europe on the Iberian Peninsula, shares kind of a border with Spain on that famous landmass at the south of Europe. Portugal is a member of the European Union, joined in 1986 and uses the euro as its currency. More on that a little bit later in the video. And as I mentioned in the video intro, Portugal has become a very popular place for people to emigrate to. There's a channel on YouTube called Our Rich Journey, which documents the journey of Aman, Christina, and their 2 children, how they achieved financial independence in the US and moved to Portugal following that. And I've seen articles as well where people have quit their jobs and they moved to Portugal. And knowing the digital nomad community as well, Portugal is a very popular destination amongst digital nomads. So let's talk about why Portugal is so popular. So the first thing I would say is that there are loads of fantastic cities in Portugal. So let's start with Lisbon, where I spent time. Now Lisbon is a very artistic, very historical city, very hilly. It's got some very iconic monuments and little things about it, if you know, like the tram line 28 and the trams that will take you up the hills. You've obviously got the Christ the Redeemer statue, the Belém Tower. And even with all of this history, you can tell that the city is becoming more and more modern and adapting and growing at the same time as well as it increases in popularity. As I say as well, Lisbon is very near the sea and you've got some lovely towns right nearby. So within about half an hour, 40 minutes, you can be in the seaside town of Cascais, you can be in the historical town of Sintra, you can also get to the most western point in Europe known as Cabo da Roca. But of course, Portugal is not just Lisbon, you have also the Algarve region on the very southern coast, and the Algarve has long been a popular destination for people to go on holiday because of the fantastic beaches and, you know, the historical architecture that is there as well. So cities like Albufeira, Faro and Lagos are incredibly popular cities and lovely places to be as well. I went to the Algarve about 6 years ago now, and I really loved the 5 days that I was there as well. Other popular cities in Portugal that you might want to visit as well are Porto. I was supposed to go to Porto actually in 2020, but due to pandemic restrictions, I unfortunately did not make it there, but also looks like a fantastic city and I'd love to pay a visit to there. And in the north, you've also got cities like Braga and Coimbra. And we're still not done there. Portugal also has islands, similar to the way Spain has the Canary Islands. Portugal has the island of Madeira, where famous Cristiano Ronaldo comes from, and you also have the Azores Islands as well. So these are islands kind of in the middle of the Atlantic, and the Azores and Madeira have more of a tropical climate, you know, based on their position and their closeness to the equator. So another fantastic place to be as well. That leads me nicely to the second point, which makes Portugal very popular, is the weather. Of course, being in the south of Europe, you know, you get much milder winters. When I was in Lisbon, you know, we'd get days of up to 15, 16 degrees normally, and this is February time. A little bit windy because of its closeness to the sea, but you know, 15, 16 degrees and you're walking in the sun is very nice in the month of February. I'm sure if you're coming from the north of Europe, then it's quite a different story in February. So that can be particularly appealing as well. And so Portugal does get a lot of days of sunshine. There's claims online that it gets up to 300 days a year of sunshine. Now this might be more targeted at the Algarve region in the south, but you get the point, you know. Portugal has very mild winters, nice warm summers, a fantastic climate to live in as well. Number 3, now, as with many countries in the Mediterranean, Portugal has fantastic food and drink. Now, I personally am not a seafood person, not really a fan, but if you are looking for seafood, then Portugal has very good seafood, and you'll enjoy that. And if you're like me and you don't like seafood, then you could still get, some nice steaks, some very nice meat as well in Portugal. And for the wine lovers, you can't miss out on a good bottle of Porto wine as well. Another thing Portugal has going for it is its low cost of living. Now, compare this with, cities in Northern Europe. If you take London or Amsterdam, for example, cities in North America, you're easily looking at, on average, probably a 20 to 30% lower cost of living. So when you come from Northern Europe, or you come from the UK, or you come from the US, where you've got much more purchasing power with your money will go a lot further if you're living in a city like Lisbon in the south. And this is going to be particularly attractive for people who have, digital businesses and who are earning money from clients in the north of Europe, or in the US or North America, for example. On the subject of money, if you're a frequent traveler or a digital nomad and you're going to a place where the currency is different from what you spend in at home, you of course want to get the best exchange rate for your money. So two cards that I use when I travel are Wise and Revolut. Now with these cards, I can get very competitive exchange rates, very close to the market rates. I can withdraw cash in local currency, and I pay very little commissions when I change money between euros and pounds or dollars, whatever it may be. So if you're interested in signing up to Wise or to Revolut, I'll leave my links in the video description for you to go and check them out. The fourth reason why people are moving to Portugal, again, similar to other Mediterranean countries, is the pace of life is much, much slower than, for example, in the US, the north of Europe, where the pace of life is a bit faster. People are in a rush to get things done, and efficiency is kind of key. In the south of Europe, me living in Spain, I can attest to this. Things just go a little bit slower. And it's nice as long as you're not rushing to get something done, but you kind of get used to that slower pace of life, and you just take it easy, you enjoy it, and I think it's overall better for you as well. So if you're not in a rush to do anything and you just want to take it easy, then you'll find that in Portugal as well, that it has that laid back culture. So Portugal as a country has a lot to offer, as you can see from those first 4 points. But in addition, the fifth point I'm going to talk about is that it is particularly accessible to foreigners, or it has been for quite some time. As I mentioned earlier, Portugal is a member of the EU, and therefore any EU citizen that would like to move to Portugal can do so, exercising their right to freedom of movement, not needing a visa, and significant bureaucratic hurdles to get there. So very easy for EU citizens to move to Portugal and take advantage of what it has to offer. But even if you are a non-EU citizen and you'd like to move to Portugal, there are other options that you can explore to be able to move there. You've got kind of this self-employment visa, so if you're looking to start up a business or do your own kind of activity from the country, then you can apply for, self-employment visa. But probably the most common visas and easier visas that people from outside the EU can apply to is the D7 visa. Now what this essentially is a passive income visa. So if you move to Portugal on this visa, you won't be able to work, but if you have investments, rental income, dividend from stocks, then you will be able to apply for a D7 visa. And the income requirements are not very high as well. You only need to prove 7,200 euros over a period of 12 months of income. That's for the first adult, and then I think it goes up by 3,000 euro increments per adult or child from that. That works out at between 600 to 800 euros a month, depending on how many people you're supporting, which that's not a very high income requirement, particularly if you're coming from, a country in Northern Europe or the US or Canada, where income is much higher, and it's probably easier to get income of that level as well. Portugal has also recently launched a digital nomad visa. Now, this is pretty new. I think it's come out this year, and it's valid for 1 year. If you apply for that digital nomad visa, you do have to prove income of up to 2,800 euros a month. By the way, that is 4 times the minimum wage in Portugal. But it's another way in. If you're a digital nomad and you have a business which generates that kind of income for you, then you can explore that. There was also a golden visa program that literally days ago, as I'm recording this video, was scrapped. So this golden visa program essentially allowed you to invest in Portugal. You could buy, a second-hand property as a renovation project for 350,000 euros, or a brand new property for 500,000 euros. Or if you were able to prove that you create 10 jobs in Portugal with your business, or if you make, I think it's a donation or transfer of 1.5 million euros, then you would be eligible for a golden visa and you would be able to move to Portugal on that. However, with Portugal being so popular and a lot of people from outside moving in and investing in these kind of properties and pushing prices up, it's creating somewhat of a housing crisis. And as a result, in the face of criticism, you know, the government has been forced to kind of pull it. And this is the way things go sometimes. You know, this program has been around since 2012, but you never know, you know, what developments can happen and how long such schemes are going to last. And so in addition to all these different routes that you can use to move to Portugal, what you also have, which is particularly attractive, are some tax incentives under a scheme known as the NHR, or non-habitual residency program. Now, what this program essentially allows you to do is live in Portugal, but pay tax as if you were a non-Portuguese resident for a period of up to 10 years. So essentially it gives you kind of a tax exemption from your Portuguese income. And if you're in a particular profession which has high levels of, you know, academic qualifications or skill, then you can also benefit from this program and essentially see a tax reduction down to 20% from what could go as high as 48% under the normal tax regime in Portugal. And I'm sure that a lot of people who have moved to Portugal have taken advantage of this scheme as well. Now, as I understand it, if you move to Portugal in a calendar year, you have until the end of March the following year to be able to apply for that scheme and take advantage of it. All right, so bonus for those of you who stayed up to this point in the video. Those of you that watch me know that I live in Spain. Obviously, Portugal is a neighboring country, very close, 1 hour flight. So I'm gonna compare Portugal and Spain now and talk about some of the similarities and differences between the two. So Portugal and Spain go way back in history, and there are a lot of cultural, linguistic similarities between the two. And even, you know, when we're talking about weather and food, you can find good food, good weather, and nice culture in both countries. However, I think that in some respects, Portugal does have a couple of things going for it that Spain does not. The first thing is that I think Portugal is perhaps a little bit cheaper from a cost of living perspective than Spain. Now, this very much depends on where you're living. For example, if you compare Lisbon and Madrid, then the two are broadly similar. You know, Lisbon might be cheaper than Barcelona, for example, but if you start comparing cities like Porto, Faro, Coimbra, and you'll see that these cities are cheaper than some of the bigger cities in Spain as well. So from a cost of living perspective, Portugal perhaps has a slight edge compared to Spain. Another thing that might be a plus for foreigners in Portugal is that this is something that I've found and others tend to find as well, is that the level of English in Portugal tends to be a little bit higher than that in Spain. So from what I've heard from speaking to people and from what I understand, there's no kind of dubbed TV shows or movies in Portugal, and people learn English at school to quite a high standard. Whereas in Spain, you do have kind of movies that are dubbed in Spanish and, you know, less exposure to people speaking English. That's not to say that people in Spain don't speak English, but I would say that in Portugal, the level of English is generally a little bit higher than in Spain. And then when you're looking at the entry options and tax incentives, I think Portugal edges it over Spain as well. I think the NHR program is more beneficial than the Beckham law that you can apply for in Spain, which is kind of reduces your tax down to 24%. Flat rate up to 5 years. Obviously the NHR, as we've said, it lasts for 10 years and you can get down to 20%, so a little bit better there as well. And of course the passive income visa, the D7, has much lower income requirements, so, you know, 600 to 800 euros a month in Portugal, whereas the Spanish equivalent, the NLV, the non-lucrative visa, you need about 2,100 euros a month to be eligible for that in Spain. Spain does, however, I think have the edge when it comes to the digital nomad visa. I did a video about this recently on my channel, and I think the Spanish digital nomad visa, not just compared to Portugal, but now compared to Europe, is one of the most competitive options out there. The income requirements are slightly lower than Portugal's. I think it's around 2,000 euros a month in Spain that you need to prove, and it's not necessarily that you have to prove that. You might just have to have kind of the equivalent money over 12 months in a bank account when you make that application. And of course you got the tax advantage of 24% when you apply for the digital nomad visa in Spain. Portugal, of course, as we said, has much higher income requirements, so 2,800 euros. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment and let me know, have you been to Portugal? Do you want to go to Portugal? And how do you think it compares to Spain? Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.